Hi guys, welcome to R Programming for SAS programmers. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about vectors. So vectors can be thought of as variables in SAS. At the same time, they also behave like arrays in SAS. So just like how in SAS we can index an array element and pull out its value, similar to that in vector, we can give the position of an element and pull out its value. So let's dig deeper into the concept. So suppose we have a systolic blood pressure of a patient measured over 10 weeks time period. So this is week 1 value, week 2 value, week 3 value, so on and so forth. So let's execute this and let's look at the values. So we have on the first position of our vector, we have value 141, and the last position of the vector, we have value 126. So suppose we want to subset this vector and we want to find out what was the value on the 7th visit of this subject. So then we can use sysbp, and then we have to use the square bracket and put number 7 in it. And you can see we got 121. So let's check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 7th value indeed is 121. So you can fetch one specific value, or you can fetch bunch of values. So for example, I want to get the first 5 visits of the subject. Then I'm going to use 1:5, which is like the sequence. And you can see I'm getting the first 5 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the output. I can also give which positions I want as an vector. So I'm creating this vector on the fly and passing value 1, 2, and 3. So it is basically going to fetch the first, second, and the third value from sysbp. Right? Sysbp is the name of our vector. So we got the first 3 values over there. Our input vector can have repeated values too. So you can see here 3 and 3 repeats, and then 1 repeats again over here. So that is also completely fine. R will not complain about it. It's like, okay, this is how you want it. I will fetch the value again. So you see 141 repeats again over here because 1 is repeated here, and then 3, 3, which is 143, 143. In this next step, we are going to see if we want all the values of the vector except few. So suppose I want all the weeks except week 7. Then you represent it with a minus sign. You say minus 7 in the square brackets will fetch you all the values except week 7. So week 7 value was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 121. And here we don't have 121. So we got all the values other than 121 or the week 7. Similar to our previous case, we can also give a sequence and put like a minus sign in front of it. So all the visits except the first 5 visits, this statement will return that. And you can see we are starting from the 6th element, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that's on what we are printing all of them. So far we were subsetting a vector based on its index or based on the positions. But we can also subset a vector based on the values. So in here, we'll say we want to subset sysbp that are greater than 150 or sysbp that are less than 90. Basically, we are trying to capture any outliers. So when you execute this, you see that we got two values that are greater than 150 and then one value in our vector which is less than 90. And these are our outliers. So with a single pipe operator, you can put the OR condition, and then similarly with a single ampersand sign, you can put an AND condition and subset your vector that way. We can also update a particular value of a vector based on its index. So let's print the sysbp, and suppose we want to update the second value, which is 153 to 154. So sysbp square bracket number 2, and then with the left assignment we execute this, and then let's print it again. And you can see now instead of 153 we have the second position as 154. Next, let's take a look at some of the vectorized function. That means those functions apply on the entire vector. So first one is the length. Length will give us how many elements are there in the vector, just like how the dim function works on arrays. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So length is going to give us value of 10. Class, sysbp has numeric values, so it's going to be a class of numeric. We can sort sysbp, so then it goes from smallest to the largest value. Again, remember the sort function does not overwrite the sysbp vector. So if we print the sysbp vector right now, it will still have the order in its original form. So unless you sort the returned unless you capture the returned value of the sort function into another vector, like for example, if I say s underscore sysbp and then store the value that is returned by the sort function into another vector, then this s underscore sysbp is going to have the sorted values. All right, so we're going to do this, and let's print it. And then you see this one has the sorted values in it. We can calculate the sum of all the values. So it's 1323. You can find an average, which is mean of the vector. You can get the median values. All these things, minimum, maximum, range, all of it you can get it from proc means, or there are other proc univariate and proc SQL to get this summary statistics in SAS. Similarly, we have these functions in R that will get you the summary statistics for the vector. The next concept that we are going to learn is called as named vectors. So in our previous example, we were subsetting our vector based on the position, and we said that these are the systolic blood pressures for the 10 visits of a patient. But there was nothing over here that told us that these are systolic blood pressure for a patient on different weeks. It could be systolic blood pressure of 10 different patients. How do we specify that these blood pressures were measured on different weeks? So for that, we have something called as named vectors. So we can define a particular name to each value of the vector. So here we'll say week 1, 141, week 2, 153, and we can define our array in this form. So the advantage of doing it this way, our code becomes more readable. So when I execute this and I print my named, you can see there are two rows that get printed. The first row are the names of each element, and then we have the values underneath it. So let's look at the length function on a named vector. We'll still have 10 elements. So this length should still give us value 10. And the class is still numeric. So the values that are stored in it are still numerics. So that doesn't change. Mean value doesn't change. It still will be the same, the average of all of these values. If we want to get the names rather than just the values, if we want to print the names of each of the element, then you use the names function. And when we execute it, you see we only got the names of all the elements and not the values. If you want to take out the names of a named vector, so we just want the values, for example, and we want to take out all these names that we have assigned to a named vector, you use a unnamed function. And let's print now only sysbp underscore 1. And you see now, instead of two rows, we are just getting one single row with just the values on it. Same thing, you could do it using as.numeric function, and it will convert this named vector, numeric vector, into just a normal numeric vector. And let's print it again. Print only sysbp underscore 2, and the same results as before. So either you can use the unnamed function or you can use the as.numeric function to take out the names of take out the names in a named vector. And again, you can check on sysbp, which was our original vector, the first vector that we defined, this one that did not have any names. And then if you use the name function or names function on that, we get null value because we don't have any names assigned on that vector. All right, so next we are going to learn how to subset a named vector. So just like before, you can subset a named vector using position also. So here we are subsetting sysbp named with position number 3, and we got 143 in the output. And you can see that's the third position, 143. But we can write our code instead of that. We can say sysbp underscore named, and then in the square brackets, we can give the name of the element, which is week 3. And that makes our code much more readable. And you can see we got the same value, but now we use a named subset. We can also overwrite a value just like before, and we can say week 2, we want to replace it with 154. So with the left assignment, let's print it and make sure that it got sysbp underscore named, and then enter. And there it is, the second value has been updated. You can also get bunch of values just like before. If you remember, we did here sysbp, and then we passed a vector, and this vector had all the positions that we wanted. Similarly, we can pass a vector that has all the names of the elements that we want, week 1, week 2, week 3, and it will give us those value. And same thing, we can have repeated values in it, and it will fetch those values again and give us the result. So you see week 1 again got repeated, and then we have week 2 repeating again over here. Next, we are going to learn how to use named vectors as formats. to decode or code certain vectors. So let's take an example. Suppose we have a vector called as country, in which we have list of countries. Maybe these are the countries from which the patient was enrolled. And then we have a format or a named vector where each country we have its corresponding ISO code stored in it. And now we want to convert our regular vector, and we want to have the coded values for each of these countries. So in order to do that, what we will do is we'll have the country underscore codes, which is our named vector, and in the square bracket we are going to pass our original country vector, which are just list of the countries. And see, there are repeat values just like before in it. So what this named vector will do is that for each of these value, it will go inside it and fetch the coded values for that country. So let's take a look. We'll run this and then we'll print the values. You can see for India, I got IND, and then the third value was also India, which I got IND. But for the second, which was United States of America, I did not get the coded values. Now, if you look closely, what happened was S over here is capital, while S in here is lowercase. So if I change this S to uppercase, right, and then I run it, and then you can see I got IND, USA, USA, right? But suppose like sometimes we don't have access to these codes. Like in SAS, we get the format catalog and we don't have the right access to it. We have to live with it. How do we deal in that situation that we can't change the code? In that case, what we can do is we can fetch the names from our named vector, right? These are the left side are the names, right side are the values. So we're going to fetch the names from our named vector, and then we're going to use the toUpper function. ToUpper is basically upcase function, similar to upcase function in SAS. It will make everything upcase. And then we are going to update our names in the country codes with the uppercase value. So let's do that, and then let's print it and see what happened. And then you can see the top portion over here, the names are capitalized, right? So we use the names function first on the right hand side of the assignment operator to fetch the values of the names. We converted them to uppercase and then replaced those by using the assignment operator. We replaced the names on the country codes itself. So what does that help us? Then what we can do here is when we take the country vector as an input, we can change that to upcase. So now things will match up. The values in our vector will match to the names in our named vector, and we'll be able to fetch the corresponding values from it. And we do this. Let's print country coded. That one and there. And you can see I got India, USA, IND. All the values are coming up properly. So what were we able to accomplish over here? We were able to take the full name of the countries, and then we were able to convert them into the ISO short forms of those countries or the coded values of it. Another example will be converting ARM code to ARM. So this is more like a decode function. Here we were coding country into its code. Here in the next example, we'll take the ARM code and we will assign ARM value using our named vector. So we have an ARM code vector which has different arms that are assigned to different patients. We have 4 patients in our case. And our patient 1 was on active treatment, patient 2 was placebo, 3rd was placebo, 4th was active. Then we have an ARM decode value, just like how we have formats in SAS. And we have a left-hand side which should match to the data. And then the right-hand side is the assignment, the value that we want to assign. So left has to match to the data that we have. So you can see you have PLA, and that's placebo, 5 milligram QD. So how do we assign a value ARM? How do we create an ARM vector from these 2 vectors? So we take the ARM decodes, right? That's the format. And then in the square bracket, we pass these values. So what it will do is it will take the first ACT, match it up with the named vector, and then it will fetch the corresponding value and store it into the ARM vector. So let's run these things and print ARM. And you can see now for each ARM code, we have the corresponding ARM value. You can unname if you don't want the ARM code value here. You can unname, so you can say ARM unname ARM. And let's print ARM now. And now you can see we just got the ARM values in it, and we removed the named portion from it. So we have an ARM code vector that has the codes, and then we have an ARM vector that has the corresponding ARM values in it. Now if you look at the names, it will be null because we used unname on it. So another way to look at the values of ARM vector is to use the paste function, which concatenates values and converts it into character. And you see the values. So this is just another way. Instead of using the print function, you can also use paste, and you can concatenate bunch of other stuff to it to see them together, just like catx function type of thing. So yeah, so that's how you can use named vectors as to decode or code certain variables. All right. The video turned out to be a little bit longer than usual, but I think we covered a very important concept over here. So if you like this video, press the thumbs up, press the subscribe button so that once I put more videos, you will be notified. And also, if you would like access to the codes that I am using here to show you guys, put a comment down in the comment box, and I will make sure that I send this code to you so that you can experiment and look at it and play with it. All right, see you guys in the next video.